Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today, I will be welcoming back my good friend Deborah Goodrich, who I've had on the show twice before. Having her coming back on again because she has a new book coming out pretty soon. And I want to find out about it because it's been very anticipated, and Deborah is a writer now, and she's got great stories, both that she tells on the podcast and that she writes about. So I'm having her on the show today to talk about that. Also, too, she was also in the cult classic Just One of the Guys. I'm going to bring up the fact that I've interviewed Lisa and Tony again, and that I had Ari on for the first time recently and stuff, and talk about all that stuff. So, here is my new interview with Deborah Goodrich.
Hello.
Hey, Deborah. Welcome back.
Thank you. Hi. How are you today?
Oh, I am swell. I mean, despite the fact it's very hot over here.
Is it? Well, we are having a very cool, rainy June day here in Connecticut, so we have the opposite.
Oh, yeah. Over here in California, it's been really bad the last, 4 days now.
I heard that. My daughter lives in L.A., and I follow the California weather kind of religiously because I used to live out there, and you guys had such a rainy winter, which was great, but then I heard the heat really kind of sucked in.
Yeah. I had a good birthday this year.
Oh, when's your birthday?
It was last week.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I one of my podcast guests sent me an autographed 8x10, and I got it in the mail on my actual birthday after I'd been waiting for it for almost a month. It was a really good day.
Oh, that's terrific. That's always special when something arrives on a special day. Well, I would love to send you an autographed copy of my book, so I'll have to get your mailing address to do that.
Oh, thank you so much, Deborah. I appreciate that.
Oh, it would be my pleasure. You have been so kind and attentive, to me and to so many people over the years. It would be a great pleasure for me to do that.
Oh, thank you so much. I will definitely do that as soon as we're done. But in the meantime, I would love to know about this book you wrote.
Right. So Finding Mrs. Ford, there are so many ways I can talk about it. It's a thriller, and it's a thriller more in the vein of Hitchcock than, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, for example. It's more of a Hitchcockian thriller, more in the vein of suspense. And it takes place in two regions of the country and two time periods. In Watch Hill, Rhode Island in 2014, and that is a beautiful seaside summer resort community on the coast of the Atlantic Ocean. Mm-hmm. And then in Detroit in 1979, when Detroit is at one of its lowest points. So it's a big contrast in those places. And it begins in 2014 when the FBI shows up at the home of Susan Ford to ask her about an Iraqi man named Sami Fakori. And Susan lies. She says she doesn't know him. And they say, well, that's interesting because he knows you. We just picked him up getting off a plane in Boston from Baghdad, and he was in a car on his way to your house. So you go back to 1979 at that point. You meet her as a college student. It's the summer before her senior year. She gets a nice little summer job at a ladies' boutique and meets this gorgeous, sexy, wild, crazy, but very charismatic girl named Annie Nelson. And they are an odd pair, but they become friends. And Annie convinces Susan to quit the very nice job and go with her to a very sketchy discotheque. It was the 70s, the era of discos, and get a job as a cocktail waitress. And Susan knows it's probably a bad idea, but Annie is so captivating that she goes with her. And the girls begin this crazy summer journey as cocktail waitresses in this disco that's owned by three Italian-American brothers, but it is also heavily populated by Iraqi Chaldean men. And the Chaldeans, it's a Christian group in Iraq. It's actually a Catholic group, which is unusual. Because a lot of the Middle Eastern Christians are Eastern Orthodox. So it's this group that exists in Iraq, and they happen to have a lot of them in Detroit, where they run the grocery business. So that's basically the setup. What happened when Susan was in that disco, when she met this guy, Sammy, in 1979? Why is he looking for her so many years later, and why would she want to lie about it to the FBI? So it goes back and forth, and bit by bit unravels the secrets that she's keeping about whatever happened that summer.
Wow, it sounds like it would make a really good movie.
I think so. I definitely think so.
What was the genesis behind the story?
Well, a lot of things came together. I did grow up in Detroit. I did work a summer job in a disco. I did grow up and, move east and become an actress, and my husband and I do go to Watch Hill. So all those places are really meaningful to me. And, I'm a big reader. I'm a big movie fan. I do like that kind of Hitchcockian thriller. And I have been writing for a long time. After I stopped acting, I worked at Miramax as a story editor, which is similar to what a book editor would be at a publishing house. But, at a film company, you're working with screenwriters and also novelists. So in those years, it was kind of like writing school for me. And I've been writing for a long while on my own and kind of just putting things away. And I'll tell you, though, one of the people who gave me tremendous confidence in my writing was the late Gene Wilder.
Oh.
My husband and I'm such a fan of his. I think
Me too.
Just an extraordinary man, a kind man, so talented in every way. So he lived in this town, Stamford, Connecticut, where my husband and I restored this art house cinema that I think I've spoken to you about before. It's called the Avon.
Right.
And, yeah, he was on our advisory board, and he would come to the Avon 3 times every fall, and he would present once a month a film. 2 of them were favorites that he loved that he wasn't in, and one of them would always be one of his films because people had to see one of his films. So, in those years, he did it for many years, we had this writing correspondence. We were planning things, and one day he said, "Are you a writer? I get the feeling that you're a writer." And I said, "Well, yes, I am." And he offered to read something, and I sent him a screenplay that I'd written that I'd won a grant for, but then never really did anything about. And he was very encouraging. He gave me a lot of positive feedback, some constructive notes of how he thought it would be better, and that to me was very meaningful. And I thought, if Gene Wilder thinks I can do this, maybe I ought to put some time and attention and try to do it. It didn't happen right away. I waited a while till really my youngest child had finished college and moved away, and I just decided to carve out the time and really put my attention into writing.
Mm-hmm. So when you write, you draw from personal experiences?
I do. There's a lot of made-up stuff because I write fiction, but I think, it's all kind of centered in what I know and places I've been. Like, for example, I would have a very hard time if someone said, "We need you to write a story set in the countryside in China." That would be hard. I would, maybe try to research it and everything, but it would be a real stretch. So even though I write fiction and everything is made up, I'm drawing from people and places I've known over the years.
That's the best way to write. That's how I write when I write my screenplays.
Right.
Yeah. How long was it between writing the previous book and this book?
So play that I wrote, I finished that probably in 2002. I was working with a writing partner. Like I said, we won a grant from the Massachusetts Arts Council and we did a little workshop of it up in the Berkshires, and then got very busy. So from 2002 to really when I seriously sat down to write Finding Mrs. Ford was 12 years. In those 12 years, I definitely belonged to writing groups. I wrote a lot of short stories and participated, but I didn't do anything of length. And then in 2014, like I said, my youngest daughter moved away, and I started writing about a day a week, and then a friend of mine who's an accomplished writer, she's written 7 books, asked me how many days a week I was writing, and I very proudly said 1 day a week. And she looked straight at me and she said, "You will never finish your book writing 1 day a week." And she was right. So I got more serious and put more time into it and just cut out other commitments.
Yeah, when I write, I do the 10 to 15 pages a day thing, you know.
That's great.
Yeah, that's the only best way to do it, because if you try to, you know, do more than that, you know, you might fry your brain.
You are so right. I know exactly what you mean. So if I write a whole day, by the end, I'm a little loopy. I have to kind of decompress because you're in another world.
Yeah, you're in the world that you're creating, you know.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So so in a way, this is your comeback book.
Well, that's funny that you say that. I mean, life is really interesting, and I was talking to a friend this week, and I said, if only we could, in the periods where things seem to not be happening, if only we could appreciate those periods as necessary in between the much more active periods. But most of us in those periods tend to panic that we will never be busy again, we'll never be working again. And I think one of the things you get as you get older is a little bit of wisdom and faith that, you know, you have to have kind of different seasons in your work, in your career, in your life, and it's okay to have slower periods and concentrate on other aspects of life. So in a way, yes, this does feel like a big comeback into the creative world and more into the public arena, but life certainly went on in between.
Mm-hmm. Are you going to write a sequel to the book?
Well, I finished another book, but it is not a sequel. I have a first draft of a book called Ruby Falls, and that is more gothic. It's a little spookier. It's a story. So Ruby Falls is a cave near Chattanooga, Tennessee. Mm-hmm. And Ruby is also the name of the main character. And it starts when she's a little girl, and her father takes her to the cave, Ruby Falls. And it's deep underground, and the tour guide has shut off the lights to scare the people. And she's telling them that there's a waterfall under there. And the tour guide is, droning on, saying that divers have dived down and they've never been able to find the bottom of this water. And little Ruby is paralyzed with fear. Because she's in a cave, she cannot tell where the water is falling. And so she's kind of rigid. She doesn't move. She doesn't want to take a step in any direction. And in the middle of all of this, her father lets go of her hand. And when the lights come back on, he's gone. And that's the beginning of the book, this big scandal of what happened to this man in this cave. And it becomes a big news item. And you cut to 20 years later, and she's a young actress. She has gotten rid of the name Ruby, and which was her middle name anyway. And she goes just by Eleanor Russell. And she's been fired from a soap opera under questionable circumstances. You don't quite know why she's fired. There's something there. And she goes to Europe and meets this Englishman and marries him, just without even knowing him. And they go to Rome, and they're about to go in the catacombs underneath the city of Rome. and she has an attack of claustrophobia because of this horrible thing that happened in her childhood. And you're kind of in her head, and she knows she should tell him what happened when she was a kid, but she decides not to. She puts it off. So she begins this new marriage as something of a liar, but her fancy English husband might not be all he pretends to be either. And that's kind of the kick stop.
Wow, that is just beautiful. The things that you're articulating to me that you write, I mean, that is beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So that one, I have a first draft, and now I'm super busy doing, all the promotion of finding this tour. So I have to, put off getting back to Ruby Falls for a little while, but then I need to. It needs a little work. It's, as you know, as a writer, revision.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Back when you were an actress in the 80s, did you know an actress named Lisa Freeman?
No, I did not. I don't think so.
She's around your age, and she did some teen movies. She is a writer now, and in 2015, she wrote this beautiful book called Honey Girl. It's about herself, using a different name. She talks about in this book when she was 15 years old, she was living in Hawaii because her father was a producer on Hawaii Five-0, and that's where she discovered that she was a lesbian, and she had all these things happen to her and stuff, and it was just a beautiful coming of age story. And she wrote the second part. I haven't read it yet. It came out 2 years ago, and then I think she's working on the third one now and stuff. And just the way you described your writing, and from what I read in that one book, I mean, it's just I can't believe how creative a lot of you actresses from the 80s are.
Well, that's I love hearing stories like that, because I think a lot of young people who pursue acting, acting it's a gamble, it's a risk. You could be the most talented person in the world, and you might not have success for reasons that no one could ever even figure out. There's talent and beauty, great, that's great. But then there's also this, I don't know if it's luck or just being in the right place at the right time. So many factors have to come together to have acting success and to continue with acting success. And I think people can really fall into a depression if they either fail to achieve it or they lose it. But it can be a very ephemeral quality, and you have to develop deep resources to create a life apart from acting. So you asked about, going back to what you said about this being a comeback. I think in the years between acting and now seriously writing, I did a lot of evolving and developing as a human being, which I think I needed to really become the kind of writer I wanted to be.
Mm-hmm. And you never stopped learning, obviously, about life and yourself during that time.
Never. No, I think that's really the key to a happy life. Is I heard a great teacher once say, "Be the seer, not the seen." And I think that really is the key to a happy life. Little children are the seer. They see. They're looking outward. They're looking at whatever they say, nature, play, running around, whatever they're looking at. And then so often with puberty, children can turn into the scene. They become more of an object. They become very consumed with and self-conscious about how other people look at them. Am I pretty? Am I this? Am I that? So they're going from the subject of their own lives to becoming the object of other people's lives. And that's not a good place to be. That will never lead to any fulfillment or happiness at all. It will always lead to frustration as you try to change yourself to do what others want or expect, or what you think they want or expect.
Mm-hmm.
So I think growing up then, as an adult, becomes that process of returning to being the seer again and kind of shaking off all of those feelings that come about from the way that we think other people see us. We have to let go of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's something I definitely have to too. I've just been caring too much about what people think about what I'm doing and stuff, and not focusing on, the good stuff of what people think,
Well, it's very easy to only hear the negative criticism. I think we can all fall into that, and it's like a practice to do what we need to do to pull ourselves out of that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, it's definitely practice.
Mm-hmm.
Last month, I had Lisa Gottlieb and Tony Hudson back on to promote their signing at Retro Invasion in Ohio.
Oh, fun!
Yeah,
I was so sorry I couldn't go to that.
Oh, you were invited?
Yes, and I wasn't able to go.
Oh, yeah. I also had Ari Gross on too.
Love him.
Very nice guy and very, very good stories he has.
And he's smart.
Oh God, he's smart as a whip. I'll tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it was late at night when we were talking. We talked for like almost 80 minutes, and he just had great stories. And he gave me Clayton's contact info. I haven't had a chance to reach out to him yet, but I will soon.
Fabulous. Yeah, we did a reunion screening in LA a few years ago.
Right.
Of just one of the guys, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I saw the Q&A panel on YouTube a few years ago. Yeah, you guys looked like you had a lot of fun. That was probably like around the time that I was recovering from my accident. Unfortunately, I didn't, get to go.
Right.
Stuff.
I think, yeah.
But Lisa told me she's trying to make another one happen in LA in the future and stuff.
Well, it is fun. I mean, it's amazing that people show up and remember those films. It is a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to meet Sherilyn Fenn this weekend at a convention.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Gosh, like all the old gangs.
Yeah. She was supposed to be at this convention last October, and then she had to cancel at the last minute, but I'm glad I'm going to meet her this weekend, though.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, what a beautiful woman she is.
Oh, she's gorgeous, yes. And I can't believe, like, when I watch Just One of the Guys and I look at stuff she did later, like Twin Peaks and stuff, I can't believe not only how more beautiful she got, also more mature looking she got, too.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
So are you doing a book tour?
I am. I'm doing... So the book comes out June 25th. I have openings in New York and all over New England over the course of the summer. And then in the early fall, I'm doing a bunch of book signings and appearances in the Midwest. I have Indiana, Ohio, and Michigan scheduled. Then I have a whole bunch in Florida. I'm doing the Miami Book Fair and a bookstore there. In January, I plan to come to Los Angeles. I'm just now putting that together for, I think, the last week in January. I have one engagement already at a place called Creative Visions in Malibu. And then beyond that, I'll start to fill in around. I'd love to do a bookstore, all kinds of things. And then more Florida, because Florida's, people are down there in the winter, so I'll do a lot of the different communities there in the winter.
Wow! Oh my God! I'm still, I've still been trying to move to LA and stuff. And if I'm there, by early next year, I will definitely be there.
Oh, that'd be terrific.
Yeah, I'll keep up to date on the schedule and all that stuff.
Okay, yeah, and I keep it on my website.
Mm-hmm.
All the dates and links to like this. If you send me a link, I can put it up there.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have a news page and I have an events page. And on the news page, I can put something like this.
Okay, great. I got a really funny joke for you.
Okay.
This is a joke you can tell your girlfriends at dinner parties.
All right.
Cinderella is about to go to the ball, and she's on her period. And the fairy godmother gives her these magic tampons and says, okay, you can go to the ball, but you have to be home by midnight, or else they'll turn into a pumpkin. She says, okay, Mom, okay, fairy godmother, I will. So 12:30 rolls around, Cinderella hasn't shown up. Fairy godmother is pacing around the house angry. But then Cinderella does show up at 4 a.m., stumbling drunk. And fairy godmother says, where were you? You were supposed to be home at midnight. And Cinderella's like, I'm so sorry, fairy godmother. I met this great guy. His name was Peter Peter.
Oh, okay, I got it. It took me like 3 days. Got it. Okay. I don't think I'm going to tell that to my girlfriend. Maybe I will. That's very funny.
Oh,
I'm a little slow, but I got it.
Yeah, certain people, when I tell that joke, sometimes they get it right away, and then sometimes they need a few seconds.
Yeah, that was me. I had the little delayed response.
Well, Deborah, I adore you so much, and I just thank you so much for coming back on, and I hope this book is very successful for you.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much. And, send me, message me your address, and I'm going to send you a copy of the book. I have an advanced copy right now.
Awesome. I sure will. And
Okay.
I'll talk to you again eventually.
Wonderful. Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. Well, there you have it. Deborah Goodrich. Ain't she a sweetheart? Yes, she is, and a very sweet lady. I already said that. Just a very smart, knowledgeable lady, great writer, and I'm very lucky that I got to talk to her again. And I'll send her my address so she can send me that book, and hopefully I'll get to meet her in the future, whether it's at screening or signing. If you like this video, everyone, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Add me as a friend on Facebook. Join my Tommy Kovac comedian page on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram and all that fun stuff. Well, that's all the time we have this week on Splat from the Past. Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past, because the present sucks. Later, dudes.